Actually, it's going to be really weird footage because we'll be talking and then halfway through the sentence it will change and he'll be sat over here instead.
If you speed it up, he'll just be moving around.
Really weird editing.
Hi, welcome back to By the Furnace. Today I am joined by Neil, designer at Collier Webb. You've been here for 10 years next week?
Yeah, I'm expecting a cake. Someone write that down. Yeah.
Noted. And Mr. Bones, who's also joining us.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Bones is here as a very obvious and cynical attempt to boost the ratings of my video. Because you're interviewing Jeff, it's the founding father, you've got a design director, you've just got some bloke who works here, so I need some help.
Okay, so Neil, can you talk us through a bit about the process when you're designing bespoke pieces?
It depends highly on how much information we've had from the client.
Yeah.
Some of them really don't know what they want, they just say, I want an Art Deco floor lamp or something, and we get to do some sketches. I love to do a pencil sketch, so we'd be quite creative there. On the other spectrum, Mister, okay, look at the camera. On the other spectrum, sometimes you get a very detailed drawing from the client, and really that means that our job is just to figure out how to make it.
Yeah. Of course. And how does that work when you're pricing a bespoke piece? Because, of course, you probably have to go into a lot of detail before getting the quotes out.
It's just applying our knowledge. You can look at different components. You can kind of imagine how they're going to be created. You can, certain parts are just obviously a turned part or a spinning, and you can kind of visualize the way of making it. You can kind of visualize how long it would take. And so that's the quoting. It's it's educated guessing, essentially. But I've lost the track of what I was going to say.
Are there any specific bespoke projects that are really memorable or that were challenging?
There was this ceiling light, kind of loosely based on our Odeon, but it had the corners of the structure, a really organic shape. They were sort of a quarter an ellipse on a mitre corner. It had compound angles, compound curves. All of the glass rods had to enter this piece. They're all different lengths, entering at different angles. So what initially you look at that and think, well, it's a casting. But because the spacing of the glass rods had to be very, very precise, and you always get casting shrinkage of a slightly unpredictable amount.
Yeah.
So we just couldn't figure out a way to cast it without doing loads and loads of copies and just picking the best ones. It definitely wasn't my idea, but someone in the design team came up with the idea of 3D printing it in a very high density nylon, it has to be structural, and plating it. It was supposed to be nickel finish. We'd never done plated plastics before.
Yeah.
So there was quite a bit of R&D and structural testing on that.
You did a similar project before with 3D printing for a yacht.
Yes, actually that came after the Odeon project. Because that worked so well, we had these floor-to-ceiling lights about 2 meters tall, just quite a simple geometric form, but just a twist with LED lights set in it. That couldn't be plated because they wanted an antique brass finish. At the time, and maybe still, we don't know anyone who could do really good plating with a tank that big, brass plating, sorry, with a tank that big of the quality we needed. So that ended up being spray melt. Have you heard of that? It's like it's like a paint finish, but it's a powdered version of a real metal mixed in a resin. You spray it onto the surface and then sand off the resin and you have a real metal finish. It's called reactive paint because you can patinate it just like a real metal. And
what was the reason for 3D printing that? Is it because of the twist that was needed in the cast, or was it the weight?
This particular client, really, we do very little casting for them because there's always slight imperfections in the casting, and these people are just too high end for a casting. It had to be very precise. We had to have very good voids to fit the drivers down the middle and LED strips, and you needed like a proud edge to clip a diffuser in. So there were so many different things that we just didn't think we could achieve in metal.
Okay.
And it had the benefit of being a lot lighter, which on a yacht is important.
So we've spoken about the bespoke project where we're receiving the design from the client, but you also work a lot on new product development for Collier Webb. Where do you get your inspiration from for those pieces? How does that process work?
In terms of what they look like, often they're inspired by the inquiries we get for bespoke stuff. You can look at an image and go, we can make something that's Collier Webb style of a similar idea. But me, I really like a simple mechanism. Things like an over-center lock, which is, you get them on a lot of folding chairs and tables, and like the latches on toolboxes. It's just a really satisfying little thing. I love a cam. Do you remember those swan neck lamps we did for a London hotel recently?
Yes.
The swan neck went up and down, and the locking mechanism that was a cam that pushed a brake so that you could lock it in place.
Okay, so you almost prefer the making and the technical side of it before the design,
Absolutely.
and that comes after.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We figure out how to do it. Normally, our client, who were the designer, figure out what they want it to look like.
Okay.
And yeah, the simple thing. Do you know those? You know those tables which they open up and then spin 90 degrees, but if you get that pivot point right, you can double the size of the table.
Yeah.
I love those. Just really elegant mechanism.
Yeah. Okay. How did you first get into design?
Well, my first job was with a civil engineering company. It's not very glamorous, but they did things like waste treatment works and landfill sites and stuff like that. So that's where I started drawing CAD, but it wasn't very inspiring. So I decided to go to uni. I was a mature student at 23 when I went to uni. Did a product design course, Bachelor of Science. And after that, I got a job at Tintab. I worked as the boss's assistant for a little bit, and then because I had CAD experience and a design background, I kind of slowly merged into doing drawings and project managing there. Tintab did a lot of staircases and kitchens, bits of furniture, very, very modern style. So a lot of hidden fixings and no handles and push latches and very nice, beautiful hardwood timbers, but also Corian. And then I came here. I've been here almost 10 years. Here, we do beautiful lighting, ironmongery, furniture and cast pieces. I remember a project, it was all Louis XIV style, which was when I first started working with Adam.
Yeah.
I think he was brought in for that project where he was sculpting lion paw feet and like angel busts and just these weird twisting foliate things.
Yeah. And how does it work with, what's the relationship like between you and the client throughout these projects? How much sort of interaction do you have with them throughout, especially when there's pattern making involved?
It's actually really good interaction with clients, particularly when there's pattern making involved, because they have to approve everything.
Yeah.
Again, it will start with a hand sketch, or depending on how organic the item is, on SolidWorks, if it's too organic, you just can't draw it, or it would take so long, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
So you go from a hand sketch to Adam, and he starts sculpting it, and it's just a series of photographs. Preferably, the client comes in. That's always the best. If they can come here, they love the foundry tour anyway.
Yeah.
Meet with Adam. Often he can change the sculpture a little bit and get to approval while they're here.
It speeds up the process, I guess, as well. Yeah. So this is a question that we're going to be asking everyone at the end of their interviews. If you could give advice to your younger self when you were just starting out in the industry, what would it be?
Certainly to embrace project management. I don't think there was enough training in that in my university course. I wish maybe I'd set out to do some learning on it, because there's no avoiding it. If you do these kind of projects, you're the designer on these kind of projects, you have to be able to deal with suppliers and the client, ordering materials. I think that's important. I'd also say that I should have asked for help more. Certainly in my first job, I just felt like there was a lot of pressure and it was my responsibility to get my projects done, and I was burdening someone else if I was to ask for help. But in reality, we're a team. It should be collaborative. There are people with more experience, a particular set of skills and knowledge, and you should ask for help.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I would tell my younger self.
That's a lovely answer. Thank you. Thank you, Neil, for joining us, and thank you, Mr. Bones. It was a pleasure, and he's been very well behaved.
Yes, he has.
Thank you.
It's remarkable. Is he asleep?
I think he might be.
I think that worked out well for us then.